What's the deal with milk? It feels like a less and less relevant consumer product, but it continues to garner so much dialogue when talking about economy or industrial farming economics. But since the 1970s, per capita milk consumption has dropped by nearly 40%, falling from over 240 pounds per year in 1975 to around 141 pounds in 2021. So Americans basically just aren't drinking milk like they used to. But what the strange part is while demand has dropped off, milk production has actually gone up. The US now produces over 220 billion pounds of milk annually, and that number keeps rising even as thousands of dairy farms vanish. In 2003, the US had over 70,000 licensed dairy farms. Today, there are fewer than 28,000. That's more than a 60% decrease in just 2 decades. So why does milk production keep climbing? Well, a big part of the answer is government involvement. Dairy has been subsidized since the New Deal era, but support intensified in the late 20th century through federal price supports, insurance programs, and product buybacks. The US government props up the industry regardless of market demand. And one major tool is the Dairy Checkoff program, which collects roughly $400 million per year from dairy producers to fund advertising campaigns like Got Milk and Milk, It Does the Body Good. When there's too much milk, the government steps in to buy the surplus. A notable example, in 2016, facing collapsing prices and too much milk, the USDA bought 11 million pounds of cheese to help subsidize the market. And that cheese didn't go to waste, but it didn't exactly contribute to any sort of solution either. Instead, it joined the growing stockpile of government cheese. Yeah, government cheese. If milk overproduction doesn't sell, instead of farmers being encouraged to reduce production, the government buys the surplus. And this ultimately further encourages farmers to produce more, knowing that no matter how much milk gets produced, the government will buy it. They turn it into cheese and put it into the government dairy reserve, a reserve that peaked at 1.4 billion pounds of cold storage in 2019, which is the largest in US history. Most of it is like processed American cheese stored in massive refrigerated warehouses and occasionally distributed to like food banks and school lunches and like emergency food programs. But despite all of this support, dairy farming is still often not profitable. In fact, according to the USDA cost of production data, the average US dairy farm has only turned a profit 3 times in the past 20 years. If you don't, factor in subsidies. But even profitable years, margins are razor thin, and many small or family-owned operations survive only through subsidies or like a second income. So what's really driving this system? The dairy industry's overproduction isn't just a quirk of supply and demand, it's a mirror of how deeply the government is intertwined with the American agricultural society and how hard it is to stop a machine once it's been set in motion. So is it really about feeding the country, or is it just like keeping this aging economic engine running? And what does it even really matter what the cost of milk is as it relates to like overall economy health, when ultimately the industry in a way is just cooking the books?